Welcome to this week's episode of The Perceptive Readers, a podcast series made in the Product of Culture, aka Pop Books website's office. Hi, I'm James. Good day, Perceptive Reader. This is James Lynch. We're going to revisit a topic from earlier this year that dealt with Peter Singer. If you will remember, it talked about how he wrote a paper and or a discourse or what have you about how ordinary people, to him, you see, are evil. And with that aspect in mind, his whole argument was, since humans really do know what goodness is, I mean, even on charitable levels, you see what I'm saying? Even charity levels, he was basically making the argument that all human beings, and this even including the highly rich, you see, from what I can understand, would be morally obligated to actually do what's right. And it's almost like, again, if you have even an excess, these are just my observations from the feel of that paper or what he was saying, that even if you have an excess, if you will, of millions upon millions of dollars, then even still, if you don't do the right thing, then maybe you should be made to do the right thing. And that was his argument. And you will remember probably from my other podcast how I mentioned that is not good. And I gave some reasons, but this time I'm going to give you some additional reasons, because it really does go into how we treat people overall anyway. Remember, God does love a cheerful giver. This is scriptural. This is his spirit, even of the Christian congregation. And so anything that somebody really don't want to give, guess what? He doesn't even want it. I want to emphasize that recently I gave you illustrations about how older ones, decades older than you, could enjoy conversations with somebody your age, that wouldn't even be over 21 yet. And such persons may wonder, why does this person find such interest in me in this way or that way? Well, the fact of the matter, it is. I mean, we get along with one another of all ages. We enjoy each other's company. And I even gave an example of God, who actually has been alive forever. And yet, you could tell he looked forward to, he enjoyed talking to persons like Job and Abraham and others. He looked forward to that. And he's eons years old, and here it is, we are his creation. We haven't even been alive for a second, you see, compared to him being alive for eternity. And yet it's so obvious that from observing his relationships with persons like that, and Moses, and even the women like Sarah and others, that, he restored their womb to give childbirth and things of that nature, that it's so obvious that God enjoys listening to and talking with persons who enjoy talking to him, you see. Now, does he make or force us to have that type of relationship? No. See, but is it the right thing, though, for all of creation, humans like ourselves, who could still be saying that, yeah, God is our Father, he is our Creator, you see, whether I pay any attention to him or not? See, the right thing and the good thing to do would be to honor and respect God. But when you look around the world today, you can see clearly some people just don't do that. And guess what? The encouragement still from the two greatest commandments, that you must love God with your whole heart, whole soul, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. See, that whole neighbor aspect goes into, anyone also who would be in need of help, like the Good Samaritan. Have you heard of that story? See, it doesn't matter whether the person is of your same belief system or not. It doesn't matter whether that person is even an enemy. You see, we are to at least pursue good as long as it depends on us, but we can't force anybody to do good. Now, with that being said, when it comes to levels of, high placed crimes and felonies, see, that then goes into another category. It goes into the category that Romans talk about with the superior authorities. And that's one of the reasons why I always like to make the difference, when I'm talking to you about there are social issues, that the best way to really resolve such matters is to deal with them in a reasonable, conscientious, even spiritual way. And then there are some matters that I told you again, when it gets into robbery, you see stealing, murder. Those are what some would say, can go into capital punishment areas, crimes of violence, that even God be saying, you better address this right away. You see what I'm saying? So, see, that gets into a different category. And so what I'm mentioning with Peter Singer, see, just from his whole paper, it didn't matter to him whether these were capital punishment crimes or just regular social and spiritual failings or preferences. You see what I'm saying? He was almost like, whatever is morally good to do, I'll say ethically good to do, then you make that person do it. And yet, as I mentioned before, that even the Bible makes that distinction still, that no, there are some areas, especially with giving, you see, our time, our resources, it still falls right into, that's between that person, their own responsibilities and conscience, and even God. So if they're stingy and cheapskates, then guess what? We can't do nothing about it. Where we're not supposed to do something about it, if a person is really, what time of year is it right now? What they call it, the season of giving. So if you still got a person who's Mr. or Mrs. Scrooge, you see, they are perfectly, scratch the word perfectly. They are within their right to be that stingy, you see. But so anyway, I wanted to share that with you because this also goes into other areas of even justice at times. You see, people may feel other persons who speak about love, peace, and giving. And then when you find out that they're entirely opposite with the way that they with their business dealings, the way they treat people, even in the way that they worship, you still may feel that, boy, that person is so bad, that person should be in jail. And yet, when it really boils down to it, you see, some of these persons that really maybe have offended us to a great degree, they still did not cross over into what the law of the land even allows. It's not considered, you see, a major felony or crime of violence. You see, and so their reputation may be tarnished or what have you, but it still doesn't mean that they're to the point where really they are some type of despicable human being that deserves to either be placed in incarceration or even put to death. You see, No, it's not a crime of violence. Some of the stuff that we find out that people do at times, and then even those felony charges of that case. Well, remember, even on the law books, and this is what I mean, some communities, some areas, jurisdictions, they have found that they kind of got more benefit out of persons having to even do community service, where they also had to pay, some of their allowance or, wage or what have you, in order to what? Make penance, if you will, of their crime. And see, according to God's word, the Bible, that was also in place as well for persons who were stealing. You see, God even had that in place. So God went on to show that, according to his justice and perfect way of doing things, it's like if the person steals something, then you know what? That person they're going to work it off. They're going to pay it back. You're not going to put them in jail. No, you're going to pay it back. And then when it even came towards corporal punishment, so to speak, or what have you, yes, it was an allowance for hit with the rods, you see, whip, if you will. But see, even if that was done, if that sentence was executed, then once it was done, it was done. It was just no prolonged, you see, making a person suffer for the rest of their lives. And we could go into other areas as well. But see, that's the whole point. The spirit of the law of love is God allows us to do whatever we want to do with our conscience besides what I've already mentioned now. You see what I'm saying? And it is nobody's place to force their opinion or conscience on somebody else, because guess what? Especially being imperfect at times, we do that, we could actually be doing, be in the wrong for doing that. So it's like you're saying, okay, you're saying you're stripping this person of their citizenship and their rights, and even their ability to make a living or what have you, taking away their funds or their luxuries or what have you. Yet you're actually breaking a lot of spiritual and ethical laws to so-called do the morally right thing, which in effect have you becoming immoral in your own actions of trying to do the right thing. So anyway, I just wanted to give this reference to you, and I'll have a link to the very first podcast as well. Have a very good day, Perceptive Reader. Take care. You have just listened to the Perceptive Readers podcast. Remember, until next time, if you read something that encourages you to improve or enhance your life for the better, it becomes your reality.